I believe what somebody is they put a tax on solar panels almost so much that people can't even. It's not even productive for them to
No,
even go to solar panels now.
yeah, it's prohibitive, really, to do that as long as you are still connected to the grid for a backup source.
Now we've seen that the Public Service Commission in Alabama, we have a 13% rate of equity or rate of return, I think what is, where the rest of the nation has around 6.5%. Do you know how they
Yeah.
went about coming up with this formula to double charge Alabama as opposed to their sister companies, Georgia Power, Mississippi, Florida?
I don't know how they did that internally. I've been gone, as you're aware, from the PSC for a few years now. But I will tell you this: I find it interesting whenever one of the commissioners is asked about this on the campaign trail or just speaking to a group about how much electricity costs in Alabama. Their response is always, "Well, it gets hot in Alabama." Well, yeah, it does, but it also gets hot in Georgia. It gets hot in Mississippi, and our utility bills should not be that much more than our adjoining states. And we're talking about electricity, but there are other entities that they regulate and they have oversight of that, and they get money from for that privilege again of being regulated by the PSC. But I don't know how they justify that. That'd be a question you'd have to ask my opponent or another one of the commissioners there. I'd be interested to know what their answer is about that.
Mr. Woodall, we've looked at, adding nuclear, we've debated the windmills, the solar panels, and, bringing back coal, all these other power sources. Um, uh, is there a point where we just have to kind of reach out to Alabama citizens and businesses and schools and other deals and say maybe some of the onus needs to be on y'all to conserve? I mean, maybe cap the, I don't know, you want to do this by force, or maybe just tell the public, if you'd set your thermostat at 66 in the winter and maybe 78 in the summer, you'd save an awful lot of money on that power bill.
That reminds me of the days of Jimmy Carter, I must tell you, Brian. I remember those days well. But that again, I mean, those are individual choices that people in Alabama can make. And I would like to point out that what we're talking about, the utility companies that pay into the PSC, I think it's a good opportunity to do that. It's not every utility company that pays into the PSC. The Public Service Commission doesn't, of course, have oversight of TVA or municipally owned utility companies or co-ops. They have oversight, and this is how the PSC likes to say this, of for-profit companies that operate in a certain geographical area without competition. And that's another lawyer way of saying a monopoly, right? But people have the ability to control, as you mentioned, their thermostat. They can set it. They have some leeway, some control over what their power bill is going to be. The problem that they don't have is they don't have control over this hidden tax. And that is one area that, again, to me, the primary thing that needs to be addressed at the Public Service Commission. But that's really in the hands of individuals around the state. And I know there are some people who keep their thermostats set higher. As I get older, I can tell you my thermostat, I'd like to have my thermostat set a little higher, keep it a little warmer, but that's a choice that they can make. I would be completely opposed to doing what Carter did, and his was just a recommendation, but coming out and telling people that they have to set their temperatures at a certain level, either in the winter or in the summer. I would be opposed to that completely.
Mr. Woodall, and you may not know the answer to this question, but there's I think, I don't know if it's a connect fee or if it's pay your bill or something. They charge $5 in Alabama and $10 in Georgia. I can't remember which that bill is. And then like the Alabama Power, their profit rates is 38% higher than Georgia. Do you know how they're able to do that when they're all up under the Southern Company?
Well, you got a different version of the Public Service Commission in Georgia than you have in Alabama. I mean, to be short, but I will go. I think I may have misheard you, but it's actually, I think what you were talking about is there are things that are actually double price here in Alabama as compared to Georgia.
Correct.
I think that's what you were pointing out, but again, you just have to look at our Public Service Commission. You know, that's one of the things that a commissioner needs to look at before casting any votes. Something else they need to look at, I'll just put it this way, they need to look at their own annual reports. I would encourage anybody watching this to pull up the annual report from the last few years at the Public Service Commission. And I'm just going to go back 4 years. You go back and you look at the annual reports from 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. In 2021, the Public Service Commission transferred, again, this is the hidden tax I'm talking about, that accounted for $10 million in 2021 that came into the Public Service Commission after originating in those utility bills being paid by these consumers across those parts of Alabama serviced by those utilities. $10 million. The very next year in 2022, the same amount of money, $10 million, went from those people paying their utility bills into the general fund. In 2023, it went down to $7 million. And in 2024, it went down to $6 million. That's still too much money. And as I tell people, you know, you figure this money is going to be used on some projects in parts of Alabama that the people who paid it are never going to see or they're never going to enjoy. That's something that we need to rectify.